Have you ever noticed how the moment you start doing better, some people stop clapping? Your growth doesn't offend them, it exposes them. And the more you share your joy, the more their energy shifts. It's not that you've changed, it's that you've changed what they believe about themselves. And that's exactly why some people will never be happy for you. Because the moment you stop waiting for their applause, their silence tells you everything. It's like planting a tree in a garden where others stopped watering their own. At first, they smile, maybe even help with the soil. But when your tree starts growing, taller, greener, stronger, their admiration turns into discomfort. Because your blooming becomes proof that theirs never did. They don't hate the tree. They hate what it reminds them of, everything they didn't nurture within themselves. Someone who's secretly unhappy for you will never say it out loud, but you'll feel it. And when you stop seeking their approval, their mask begins to slip. Your strength exposes their silence, and your peace becomes an insult to their chaos. So, how do you handle the people who will never be happy for you? Stick around, because the last part will change the way you see every fake smile you've ever trusted. Let's begin. Number 1, your growth reminds them of their stagnation. Let's talk about one of the hardest truths to accept, someone who simply can't be happy for you. At first you think maybe they're just distracted, maybe they didn't hear the news clearly, or maybe they're having a rough day. But over time, it becomes undeniable. Every time you grow, succeed, or evolve, they go quiet. No congratulations, no encouragement, just an awkward silence, a forced smile, or a quick change of subject. And it starts to hurt, because you wonder, what did I do wrong? But here's the truth, you didn't do anything wrong. Your growth just reminds them of their stagnation. Some people don't see your success as a reflection of your hard work. They see it as a spotlight on everything they've been avoiding. When you take risks, they feel exposed for playing it safe. When you evolve, they feel left behind. And instead of turning that discomfort into motivation, they let it rot into quiet resentment. You become a mirror, showing them what they could be, what they haven't done, and what they've chosen to ignore. And instead of loving you for it, they start to hate the reflection. This is where Stoic insight becomes your anchor. Epictetus once taught, "Do not expect those who are stuck to celebrate those who move. Their resentment comes not from you, but from their own inertia." It's a paraphrased truth, but a powerful one. Your evolution will always threaten those who have made peace with standing still. And if their self-worth is fragile, your growth doesn't inspire them, it unsettles them. I know someone who went through this. Let's call her Rachel. She had a long-time friend, someone she'd known since college. When Rachel got a promotion at work, after years of effort, her friend didn't celebrate. She brushed it off with a quick, "Must be nice," and changed the subject. When Rachel bought her first home, the silence was even louder. No visit, no congratulations, just distance. For a long time, Rachel thought maybe she had become arrogant. But then she realized her success wasn't the problem. It just reminded her friend of everything she hadn't pursued. And that wasn't Rachel's burden to carry. So how do you handle it? First, stop shrinking to keep others comfortable. Your growth is not a threat, it's a reflection of your choices. Second, stop explaining your wins to people who refuse to clap. And finally, release the need for their approval. You don't need everyone to be happy for you. Just be proud of yourself. At the end of the day, not everyone can celebrate your progress, and that's okay. Just remember, those who are truly at peace with themselves won't feel shaken by your success. They'll cheer for you because they're growing too. Number 2, they measure life through competition, not connection. Let's talk about a mindset that turns even the closest relationships cold. When someone sees life not through connection, but through competition. These are the people who can't be happy for your wins because to them, every victory you achieve feels like something they've lost. They don't view relationships as mutual growth. They view them as a scoreboard. And they don't see your joy as something to celebrate. They see it as a reminder that they're behind. Here's the truth. To them, life is a zero-sum game. Your win feels like their loss. They measure status, not sincerity. The moment you rise, they feel smaller. Not because you've done anything to hurt them, but because they've tied their self-worth to being ahead. So when you achieve something, whether it's personal, professional, or emotional, they don't cheer, they tense up. And sometimes, without even realizing it, they start to distance themselves from you or make subtle remarks to downplay what you've earned. Because in their mind, if you're doing well, it must mean they're falling behind. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes your compass. Seneca once said, "Envy is the tax paid by mediocrity to greatness." That line cuts deep. Envy isn't just an emotion, it's a confession. It reveals that someone is too caught up in comparison to truly connect. Instead of learning from others, they compete with them. Instead of supporting others, they secretly resent them. And if you've ever wondered why someone can't just be happy for you, this is often the reason. They're not seeing you. They're seeing a threat to their ego. Let me share a story. A guy I know, let's call him Matt, had a friend he'd grown up with. They were close for years, but when Matt finally started making real progress, opening a small business, getting into shape, building a more stable life, his friend changed. He'd make sarcastic comments like, "Must be nice to have time for all that," or act surprised when Matt achieved something new. At first, Matt brushed it off, but eventually it became clear. This wasn't support. It was silent rivalry. His friend couldn't be happy for him because he saw Matt's success as proof that he'd fallen behind. So what do? First, recognize the pattern. If someone sees your growth as a threat, it's not your responsibility to shrink. It's their responsibility to heal. Second, stop seeking connection where there's only competition. And finally, protect your peace. You don't owe anyone your silence just because they can't handle your shine. At the end of the day, those who measure life through competition will always feel unsettled by your growth. But those who are truly secure, they'll celebrate it like it's their own, and those are the ones worth keeping close. Number 3, they feel entitled to your journey. Let's talk about a bitter truth most people never say out loud. Some individuals quietly believe they were more deserving of the life you're building. They won't confront you directly. They won't say, "That should have been me." But you'll feel it in their silence, their distant energy, or the subtle bitterness in their voice. In their mind, your success wasn't earned. It was taken. They see your progress not as something you worked for, but as something they were somehow denied. And rather than celebrating you, they carry an invisible resentment, convinced that your journey owes them something. Here's the truth. Some people will quietly believe they deserve what you've worked for. It doesn't matter how hard you tried, how long you struggled, or how many nights you spent doubting yourself. They'll still think your win was meant for them. Maybe because they were there when you started. Maybe because you used to be on the same level. Or maybe because deep down they see themselves as victims of life. And in that narrative, every win someone else achieves feels like one more loss for them. This is where Stoic clarity becomes essential. Marcus Aurelius, in a modern interpretation, teaches, "Do not expect fairness from those who see themselves as victims of life. When someone walks through the world feeling owed, they stop recognizing effort. They stop acknowledging discipline. They ignore sacrifice. All they see is the gap between where they are and where you are. And instead of doing the work to close that gap, they sit in quiet judgment, resenting you for taking a path they feel they were supposed to walk. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Brianna, worked tirelessly to earn a scholarship that changed her entire career. She stayed up late studying, skipped parties, worked side jobs, and when she finally got it, her longtime friend didn't say congratulations. Instead, she said, "Wow, you're lucky. I wanted that too." It stung, not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't. There was no recognition of effort, no acknowledgement of the years Brianna had invested, just quiet entitlement, as if Brianna had taken something that wasn't hers to begin with. So how do you handle people like this? First, understand that their resentment isn't about you. It's about their unresolved relationship with themselves. Second, stop trying to justify your wins. You don't need to defend your hard work to those who refuse to do theirs. And finally, protect your journey. Not everyone will clap, especially those who think they deserved your path more than you did. At the end of the day, some people will never admit it, but they feel entitled to your story. Let them carry that weight. You've got more important things to do, like continuing to earn every step you take. If you've watched the video this far, don't forget to leave a comment with a "thank God" and give it a like if you enjoyed the content. Your support means a lot and motivates me to keep creating more interesting videos. I hope you find inspiration in them and that we continue learning together. Thank you for your support. Number 4. They were happy as long as you stayed beneath them. Let's talk about one of the most uncomfortable realities. Some people were only ever kind to you because you stayed small. As long as your light didn't outshine theirs, as long as your ambition didn't stretch too far, they felt safe. They supported you, but only within limits. Limits they had quietly set based on their own insecurities. Your humility never bothered them. Your glow does. And the moment you begin to rise, to evolve, to want more, they start to shift. Their tone changes, their warmth fades, their support turns into silence. Because deep down, they were never rooting for your growth. They were rooting for your place beneath them to stay fixed. Here's the truth. They were happy as long as your dreams didn't challenge their limitations. When you played it small, they could feel important, superior, needed. But the moment you stepped into your potential, they felt exposed. Your elevation reminded them of the parts of themselves they had ignored. It shattered the illusion that this is just how life is, and that discomfort turned into quiet resentment. Suddenly, your success isn't inspiring, it's offensive, and not because of anything you did wrong, but because your courage revealed their complacency. This is where Stoic wisdom offers clarity. Epictetus once said, "The truth offends only those who live by illusion." That's exactly what happens here. Your progress becomes the truth they don't want to see. It shatters the story they've been telling themselves, that staying still is safe, that ambition is dangerous, that comfort is enough. When your truth rises, their illusion breaks, and they don't take that lightly. Let me share a story. A guy I know, let's call him Marcus, grew up in a small town where most people never left. He was the quiet one, always respectful, never making waves. But over time, Marcus started to dream bigger. He worked hard, moved to a new city, and started building something meaningful. When he returned to visit, people weren't proud. They were cold. Old friends joked about how he changed, how he thinks he's better now. One even said, "You used to be more down to earth." But Marcus hadn't changed. He'd just stopped hiding. And the truth was, they were only comfortable with him when he played beneath his potential. So how do you deal with this? First, stop shrinking to preserve someone else's comfort. Second, understand that their reaction isn't your burden, it's their unhealed insecurity. And third, keep rising anyway. You don't owe anyone the version of yourself that makes them feel more secure. At the end of the day, real friends won't just love the quiet, humble version of you. They'll cheer when you shine. If someone only liked you when you played small, they were never for you. Let them go. You've outgrown the illusion they needed you to live in. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe for more powerful insights. Number 5, they can't stand what they can't control. Let's talk about one of the deepest roots of resentment, when someone loses control over you and suddenly they lose all interest in supporting you. At first, they seemed proud of you, supportive, even helpful. But that was when your wins still passed through their approval. That was when they felt needed, when they could still influence your choices, your self-worth, your direction. But then something changed. You grew. You found peace. You stopped asking for their advice. You stopped needing their validation. And suddenly, they pulled away. Not because you did anything wrong, but because they can't stand what they can't control. Here's the truth. Your happiness, your success, your independence, it threatens those who once felt power over you. They liked you better when you were uncertain, when you asked them what to do, when they could guilt you into staying small. But now your self-trust makes them uncomfortable. Your clarity removes their influence. And once they realize they can no longer manipulate your emotions, they stop pretending to clap. Some do it quietly, through distance, through subtle digs. Others do it loudly, with bitterness, with criticism, with cold withdrawal. But in every case, the message is the same. I only supported you when I felt in control. This is where Stoic wisdom brings peace. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The free man is he who lives according to reason, not permission." When you stop living for others' approval and start living in alignment with your own principles, you become untouchable. That kind of freedom doesn't sit well with those who depended on your self-doubt to feel significant. And when your strength no longer benefits them, they often turn bitter. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Amanda, used to lean heavily on her older sister for guidance. Every decision, every step, she'd check in. "What do you think I should do?" And her sister loved it. She felt needed, respected, important. But as Amanda healed, she stopped asking. She started trusting her own voice. And when she launched her own business and succeeded, her sister went cold. No celebration, no encouragement. Just silence and an occasional, "I hope you know what you're doing." That's when Amanda realized the love was conditional. It only existed when Amanda was dependent. So, how do you handle this shift? First, don't apologize for your independence. Second, stop chasing approval from those who only supported the weaker version of you. And third, keep living free, not out of rebellion, but out of alignment with who you are now. At the end of the day, you don't need to be controlled to be loved. Real support doesn't disappear when you stand on your own. And anyone who stops clapping when they lose control, they were never clapping for you to begin with. Number 6. They want the spotlight, not the responsibility. Let's talk about a kind of resentment that doesn't come from your failures, but from your success. Some people envy the reward, but never the road. They see your spotlight, but not your sweat. They admire your recognition, but ignore your responsibility. And when you finally reach a place you've earned, after long nights, painful sacrifices, and consistent discipline, they don't feel happy for you. They feel confused, maybe even bitter, because in their minds, success is something that's supposed to just happen, not something that's built. Here's the truth. They want the spotlight, not the responsibility. They crave applause without performance. They want the outcome without the effort. And when they see you getting what they believe they deserve without having done the work, they feel cheated. But what they're really upset about isn't your progress. It's their own avoidance. Your discipline shines a light on their procrastination. Your sacrifice exposes their excuses. And instead of seeing you as someone to learn from, they start seeing you as someone to resent. This is where Stoic wisdom steps in. Epictetus once said, "Desire without effort is the source of all bitterness." And it shows. When someone longs for a life they haven't earned and then watches you earn it, it burns. Not because you did something wrong, but because they didn't do anything at all. And that truth is hard for people to face. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Jasmine, was the kind of person who worked in silence. She never bragged, never complained, just kept her head down and stayed focused. Over the years, she built a respected brand from nothing, and when she finally started gaining traction, clients, media attention, financial stability, her childhood friend grew distant. One day, that friend said, "It must be nice to be lucky." Jasmine was stunned. Lucky? She hadn't had a day off in months. But that's the thing. Her friend only saw the spotlight, not the responsibility that came before it. So what do you do when people envy your wins but ignore your work? First, stop explaining yourself. You don't need to defend what you've earned. Second, protect your peace. Their resentment is a reflection of what they refuse to do, not who you are. And third, keep showing up. Let your consistency speak louder than their assumptions. At the end of the day, the ones who want the rewards without the responsibility will never understand your path. And that's okay. You weren't working to be seen, you were working to become. Let them envy the light. You'll stay focused on the fire that built it. If you believe this video can help others, give it a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm show it to more people. And don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content coming your way. Share your thoughts in the comments. I will definitely reply. Number 7. They were never rooting for you, just close enough to watch. Let's talk about one of the most misleading types of people in your life. Those who stayed close, not to support, but to observe. They smiled. They nodded. They even checked in now and then, but something always felt off. Like their encouragement never went beyond surface level. And when you finally started to succeed, really succeed, something strange happened. They didn't cheer. They didn't celebrate. They slowly vanished. Why? Because they were never rooting for you. They were just close enough to watch, hoping quietly that you wouldn't make it. Here's the truth. Some people aren't in your life to lift you. They're there to witness you fall. But when the failure they expected never comes, they lose interest. These are the people who pretend to care, but only so they can stay close to the action. They ask questions, not to understand, but to collect updates. And when things start going well for you, their tone changes. The texts slow down. The energy cools. They can't celebrate you because they were never invested in your growth, only in your limits. This is where Stoic wisdom gives clarity. Marcus Aurelius once said, paraphrased, "The absence of applause often reveals the true faces of those who smiled in silence." Think about that. It's not always the loud critics who hurt the most. It's the quiet ones who pretended to clap. The ones who sat in your corner but secretly hoped the lights would go out. The ones who never offered support, only watched for cracks in your foundation. Let me share a story. A guy I know, let's call him Eric, had a few friends who were always around. They'd catch up now and then, ask how his goals were going, even say things like, "Proud of you, man." But when Eric finally launched his business and it took off, they went silent. No messages, no calls. One even unfollowed him quietly on social media. At first he felt hurt, confused, but then he realized they weren't disappointed in him. They were disappointed for themselves. They stayed close, expecting failure. And when it didn't come, they disappeared. So how do you handle that kind of energy? First, trust the silence. When people go quiet during your success, they're telling you who they really are. Second, release the need to be liked. You don't need applause to validate your path. And third, keep moving. Their absence is not a loss, it's clarity. At the end of the day, not everyone who smiles is for you. And that's okay, because the ones who truly support you won't just watch from a distance. They'll walk with you, and those are the voices that matter.